I live in Ukraine and I am from Mariupol, the city that was destroyed by the Russian army. I want to tell you why the war in Ukraine is not a local war. For Russia, it's a war against Western civilization. And I also want to explain why citizens of Europe and the USA can't feel safe today. This channel is dedicated to the topic of Russia's war against the West. Here I will tell you how the Putin regime works, how Russian propaganda works, and how the hatred of Russians for the West was formed. So subscribe if you want to understand what is happening now and what to expect in the next few years. In this video, I will briefly tell the history of the conflict in Ukraine. After the collapse of the USSR, many former Soviet republics led dictatorial regimes. In Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan and many other countries, Russia supports and sponsors all these regimes in every possible way. Putin sees himself as the emperor of a great empire. Therefore, he makes the countries around Russia completely depend on it. He does not recognize their subjectivity and sovereignty. The vast majority of Russians support this point of view. They have always been chauvinists. The Russians considered themselves as the main nation of the USSR, while the rest of the peoples were treated as little backward and underdeveloped nations, and moreover, all the Soviet republics were considered as the colonies. Therefore, for most Soviet republics, the collapse of the USSR was the path to freedom, and for the Russians, it was the collapse of their empire. And they still can't get over it. That is why Putin dreams to restore the empire, and the Russians support him, even if they are against the war. Ukraine has become one of the few former Soviet republics that has managed to build a democracy. We have adopted Western values and the European way of development. We started to create democratic institutions, we have real elections and change of authorities. Putin couldn't accept that fact and tried to create another Russian-controlled dictatorial regime in Ukraine, headed by Yanukovych. In 2014, we Ukrainians took to the streets and overthrew the dictator. Having taken a moment of Ukraine's weakness, Putin annexed Crimea and unleashed a hybrid war in eastern Ukraine. Putin's foreign policy is still pursuing the logic of the Cold War. He believes that there is only one country in the world that alone controls the entire world, and this is the USA. European countries also don't have their own political will and are completely subordinate to America. The United States and all Americans hate Russia and dream about destroying it because they don't want to share absolute world domination with anyone else. Yes, such a complete nonsense is in Putin's head. Of course, Putin can't accept the fact that Ukraine has a subjectivity, its own political will, and is able to choose its own path of development, but not as part of the Russian Empire. Therefore, he believes that the revolution in 2014 in Ukraine was organized by the State Department in order to subjugate Ukraine and get closer to the borders of Russia. And when Russia launched a full-scale war against Ukraine this year, Putin and Russian propaganda began to tell that it was America that had actually unleashed this war and was trying to destroy Russia with the help of Ukrainians. Yes, it all sounds like a stupid conspiracy theory from the internet, but today it's the state ideology of Russia. For the past 10 years, it has been constantly heard from the lips of all Russian propagandists in almost all Russian media This is voiced in the statements of Russian politicians, and the same crazy ideas are constantly heard from the rostrum of the Russian parliament. After all, Putin himself constantly talks about this, and the vast majority of Russians believe in it. By the way, Russian propaganda has begun to threaten the West with a nuclear war exactly since 2014, and such threats have constantly sounded these 8 years from high-ranking Russian officials and politicians. By the way, in one of the following videos I will analyze how Russian propaganda works and how it zombifies people. If you are interested in this topic, be sure to be subscribed to my channel. So, in Russian society today, there is a demand for a war against Europe and America. They dream about restoring the empire and destroying the Western world. The war in Ukraine is just one step towards this goal, because there are only two scenarios to stop this war. Either Western world will support us with everything necessary weapons and lead a complete economic and energy blockade of Russia, so we can break the Russian army and Russia will not be able to restore it. Or in a few years the war will come to your countries. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and post any questions about Russia in comments. I will answer them in my next video.